Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar about doing business in Senegal. It's 9 a.m. in Dakar, 11 a.m. in the Netherlands. I think, I saw that a lot more people registered for this webinar, but they're free to join also later on, so we'll just start. This webinar is organized by the Netherlands African Business Council, NABC. My name is Maloe de Reuver. I'm a project manager at NABC and also the country representative for Côte d'Ivoire and Senegal. And I will also be the moderator of today's session. I would like to start by with some questions for Her Excellency, Mrs. Joan Wiegman. First of all, to provide some insights in the current situation in Senegal. What are some of the health and economic impacts of COVID-19 in the country? What is the situation there at the moment?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. First of all, Maloe and colleagues, thank you very much for organizing this interesting event. And luckily, we have the technological means to do it this way because, because of the current situation. Of course, it's a bit difficult for me to judge how many people know exactly about the situation in Senegal who are participating. But let me just give you some facts and figures, and then maybe we can do some questions if there are any later on. Senegal, and I will not repeat this, in the many African countries, it's a bit the same situation. There has not been a huge explosion of cases, and there also has not been a peak, not after, for example, 2 weeks after the end of Ramadan or 2 weeks after relaxing a lot of the measures. But still, the number of cases goes up. But it's important to highlight that it's not by far the kind of numbers that you see in Europe. Just to give you an example, I calculated yesterday that in the last 2 weeks, on every 100,000 inhabitants of the country, there are 8.0 new cases. I think in the Netherlands, it's something like 225. So in total, we now have 6,000 cases, of which 4,000 already have recovered. Unfortunately, 93 so far have died, which is like 13% of the cases. This is comparable to Europe. This does not mean that the health system is of the same quality as in Europe, but it simply means, I think, that there are less grave cases here, and there are lots of speculations about why this is. Young population, temperature, but nobody knows, so I'm not gonna go into that. A lot of measures are still in place, though. Already a lot has been relaxed. A major one that has not been relaxed yet is opening the borders and the international airspace, and it's not, despite all speculations about this, there is no date yet. There's a lot circulating, but it's not sure. So people who are, just an advice for all our 6 countries, even if you do manage to book a flight now, this doesn't mean it exists, because some of the airlines open up their booking system, but that doesn't mean. So please don't count too much on that yet. Well, at the latest, at the 31st of June, there will be a decision about continuation of the state of emergency and on opening or not the borders and airspace. Everybody expects this to happen on Sunday, actually, but we will see how it goes, because just this morning we received the news, sorry for the background noise, that's the garden. We just received the news that the president himself has put himself in self-isolation because he has been in contact with someone who was positively tested on COVID. Tourism, of course, is one of the sectors that has been hit hard, and the government is making a plan to re-establish that sector, which is of such big importance. But of course, for that you need your international guests, because internal tourism is not really a big thing. Do you want me to continue immediately about saying a few things about the economy? Because I think there are some other people who are more expert on that because they live it every day, but I can just, if you want, say a few things about this. Yes?
Yeah, perhaps some brief points, and
okay.
You can come back to it later. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. The Senegalese economy, like anywhere else in the world, has been hit hard, of course, and I think the worst is yet to come. Just one point about that is that there was technical chômage, and which ends at the 1st of July, which means that you cannot let people go, but you can pay them less. And I already heard from some people who actually had been laid off as from the 1st of July, because this is now going to be possible. But nevertheless, Senegal has a relatively strong economy for African standards. In the last 5 years, the growth figures has been around 6%. This was also predicted for 2020, but IMF has downwarded it first to downgraded this growth perspective first to 3% and now is at 1.1%. But I do not think there are many countries in the world yet that can still say that they have a growth perspective instead of decline. So that's actually it's hard. One of the things that has to be said is that the government has given great priority also when thinking about which measures to take in the COVID crisis is to look at the economy first, because this is an open economy. It's also by large an informal economy, which means that it's very difficult to keep people inside homes. But a lot of emphasis has been given to measures to help sectors, to help enterprises, to help vulnerable people or groups. But of course, it has to be seen what in the long run will be the effect on the economy. But we still think that the prospects look relatively good, and of course a lot of things will slow down, as they already do.
Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador. So indeed, some positive news when it comes to the numbers, less positive about the first effects now on the economy. So hopefully will that be less worse than the expectations now. Also, the embassy is working hard on building stronger economic ties between the Netherlands and Senegal. Could you give a brief overview of some of the programs or initiatives that the embassy is working on?
Yes, thank you very much for that. Yes, I can. Well, first of all, I would like to say that we do feel that the main sectors where Dutch companies already are active in Senegal remain probably the strong points for the future, which is agriculture, maritime, and energy. And we do see some prospects in also other sectors where we think where we will put our focus a bit more in the future, which is I'll just put this very briefly: renewable energy, coastal protection, and probably circular economy, because waste management is a huge problem here, and there's a lot of attention for it. And just last week, the World Bank announced a $300 million support for Senegal for waste management for the foreseeable future. Regarding programs, well, just to make it very brief, because I think we need time also to discuss later, and there are 5 more other panelists. As the best overview of that can be found actually at RVO, because that's also our main, well, let's put it this way, partner for implementing programs and supporting enterprises that want to do business in Senegal. So I would just, to keep it brief, I would just like to say on the website there you will find probably any information that you need. And if you have any questions, of course, always feel free to approach the embassy. We will guide you through sectors, but also to find contacts here in Senegal and in the other countries. So feel free to approach us with any question you have.
Yes, great. Thank you very much, Ambassador. I saw that Pijker Polderman at the embassy also already posted the email address, his email address in the comment section, on which you can contact the embassy for more information on this. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll get back also in the Q&A session at the end, where participants can ask some questions to you. But for now, let's move to Mr. Mountaga, who is the Director General of the National Investment Promotion Agency, APIX Senegal. Mr. Say, welcome to this session. My first question to you: what has been the response of the Senegalese government to mitigate the economic risks by COVID-19? What support is given to companies or the private sector?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank His Excellency, the Ambassador, and I confirm all what he has said. When the event for the COVID-19 started, the country has put in place what we call a resilient program to support investors, to support companies, and to drive the economy in order to mitigate the negative impact on the economic and the health aspect for the COVID, what we call the pandemic. At the end of the day, for the economic aspect, it has been put in place a resilient program through 14 measures. These 14 topics meant we, first of all, decided to support companies by downsizing the delay for the payment of the added value taxes, to support that. The second topic is the suspension of the fees, or sometimes we do some rebates in order to allow companies to be able to support their charge and their fees during the event. Just for a topic that for me is very important, the fiscal year end was end of March for each year. End of March for each year, companies has to declare their fees and pay them within 2 weeks. And the country has postponed this delay to support them. The third one, sorry, the first one is we put more delay on the payment of the collection of the added value taxes from the customs administration. That will allow companies to make sure that how they can support the salaries or wages for the payment in order to postpone the fees, taxes in terms of fiscality. The suspension of the collection of the debts, of the fiscal debt, that the Customs Department and the Minister of Finance, through the government, they had decided to let the company not being paid that kind of tax. And any donation that the company made to support the company or the social activities will be deducted to the taxes. This is a decision that we have made. And we put in place a mechanism that will support all the company to collect their public debts, to pay as soon as possible under the emergency way all the public debts that the public or the state should pay the company. This is valuable for support them, and we have a lot of meetings to identify those companies that were under trouble through these periods. And the government put in place what we call the force COVID-19, a big team through all the sectors that has been impacted by COVID-19 and collecting 1,000 billions of francs CFA to support the program. The resilient program has been supported by a fund given by the government for about 1,000 billions of francs CFA. And this has been deducted through each sectors, and mainly industry, the tourism, the health sectors, and all the other sector that has been identified as a sector at risk through COVID-19. And we have, through the sector private, like APIX is an entry gateway for all the investors. We have Fonji that will support as a guarantee for any investment that one company may need, and the delegation for the rapid entrepreneuriat. These three agencies has been collected and made a lot of contact with the private sector under the leadership of APIX. And we identify all of them. There is a meeting we held at the weekly basis to collect all the needed that the company have made to get supported in order to be able to support and get in charge of the salaries to eliminate salary and to support all the people. That means even without having activities, they keep their employees, and the state support a minimum of 30% of the salaries. You maintain people, you pay 70% of the salaries, and the state covers the rest. This is what we have made in Senegal through the post-COVID-19, started on the 19th March 2020. The borders has been closed. No move from outside of the country to inside of the country. And at this phase, we support them by having specific program for each company that come to us or that we may think could be impacted by the program. And this is very important for you to know. And I will come back later during my presentation for specific companies coming from Netherlands that we have made some support, discuss with them, and support them on the north of the country. This is the 14 measures that in terms of investment, private investment, supporting private sector has been identified, put in place through APIX leadership to support all the needed that we have identified with the private sector. What I can say, just on top of what His Excellency the Ambassador has said, today the school started today. They will go to the school today, college and primary school. That means confidence come back, and we believe now we can open the economic activity. The emergency and the cover hide that's been done will now, let's say, mitigate it. The activity has started, I can say, since the 2nd of June. We may know now, I think we come back to the stability and confidence come back and people start going to the workplace. And we push as much as possible to let people say the economy should start and we have to manage how we should live with the virus. This is what I can say as the first part of my presentation. If there is any question, I'm here to answer. And I can say the border now between France and Senegal is now open. Air Senegal is starting to collect people coming from France to Dakar. When you are Senegalese permanent residents, investor that living in Senegal, you can take Air France from Paris to Dakar. This starts since the 20th of June, last week. And if you are foreign investor, not Senegalese nationalities, you may ask support to APIX. We can support you how to come to Senegal despite of the borders are closed. But I believe starting from the 2nd of July, everything will come back to the normal situation. Thank you for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Say. Some very, a lot of measures it seems that have been taken in place also to support the private sector in Senegal. And interesting what you mentioned lastly about the flight. So yeah, at least if you, from what I understand, from what the ambassador said and what you say, Mr. Say, it seems like the flights are starting again, going back to Senegal slowly, but it's good to very double check that the flight you reserve is actually going and confirmed. Yeah, so you don't book a flight which is then cancelled or not going afterwards. Okay. Actually, my second question to you, Mr. Sai, is it's the mandate, of course, of the APIX to draw investments, investors from around the world to Senegal. So, if you would very briefly, just three main reasons of why foreign companies should invest in Senegal. What makes the country different from others in the region, and what benefits are offered to foreign companies? Just as a brief, three main reasons.
Thank you very much. I think the first reason that an investor can take as a main decision to come to a country is a political stability. Our country has proven its political stability under strong democracy. We changed 3 times the president, and there is no trouble in this country. I think it's very important. At any time we have the opportunity to talk to the European investor, to tell them this is very stable and politically and democracy in this country, your investment will be much more secure in this country here. The second point is we put a lot of reforms to make our business environment as much as possible and friendly for the investors. On the doing business ranking, Senegal has gained as a good progress for 60 places on the doing business. 3 times for the last 6 years, we have been nominated, elected for the top 10 best reformer in the world. And we know, put in place a strong and evident program that has been approved by the doing business of the World Bank. This is the best environment climate in Africa, in the West Africa. The second one, we have a vision, what we call the Senegal Emerging Plan. This vision has as its first ambition to put emergency through emerging country through 27 major projects and 17 major reforms. This has been started since 2014, and we do the second batch on 2018 to run it. Now, according to the new events of the COVID-19, we are upgrading this program, but what I can say is under the agriculture, we have a lot of opportunities, 240,000 hectares in the north of the country. We have a lot of opportunities on the oil and gas activities, but according to the last promising discoveries in terms of oil and gas, we have a lot of opportunities in terms of tourism, but in terms of tourism, we have 3,000 hours as a sunny 3,000 hours per year. We have beaches, and in terms of tourism, we will come back as the best country when we get out from this COVID-19. This is what I can say so far. A lot of opportunities in terms of industry, a lot of opportunities in terms of agriculture, tourism, energy, infrastructure, and all the other activities that can support any investment. But last but not least, I can confirm that since we started APIX, so far we have $168 million investment coming from the Netherlands. And with your many and key players that invest in Senegal, and they can say how we can support them here so far. We kindly invite you to come to invest in Senegal according to our priorities. We have a good business climate and a political and stable country. This is what I say today. And after the event, we will send you the presentation. I don't know who we can give it, and all the participants can get it to the electronic version. Thank you.
me those brochures or more information, I can definitely pass it on to the participants. And yeah, and also from what I understand, they can reach out to you if they have any more questions on that.
And I would like to thank the Netherlands private sectors like Philip Morris, FIMOA, CCIS, CSTP on the industry sectors. On the infrastructure, maritimes, Technogas Senegal, COS, SIRL, all these companies that deal with us at the daily basis, we support them. Anytime you need something in Senegal, you can contact APIX. I will give you the presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Say. And yeah, we'll come back at the end of the session also with some questions. Yeah, then next, yeah, so we've heard the ambassador, we've had the director of APIX, who are both organizations working very hard on getting Dutch companies to do business and invest in Senegal and also supporting them on the ground. Now let's hear this perspective from some different sectors. We have speakers today to provide insights on the agricultural sector, logistics, and real estate in Senegal, and whose insights together will also give you a bit more of an idea of the general situation for companies and entrepreneurs on the ground. We'll start with Mr. Pierre Chapusette, who is, like I said at the beginning, a private sector consultant, experience working for different organizations, and currently also carrying out a study on the agricultural sector in Senegal, and specifically identifying opportunities for Dutch companies. Mr. Chapusette, what can you say has been the impact of COVID-19 on the agricultural sector in Senegal? Have there been any changes in supply, demand, or the way in which value chains function?
Thank you. So I will directly start answering. First of all, of course, I thank you for organizing the event and inviting me. So you know that in response to COVID-19, government of Senegal has taken different containment measures. It was mostly a curfew, interdiction for people to travel between departments, and social distancing. But it is important to know that the government has directly included the possibility to grant waivers for professional reasons, including for transportation of food products. This has been very important to limit the negative impact on agro-logistics in Senegal. So as far as exports is concerned, I can say that it's more on the supply side that we have seen negative impacts. Actually, yesterday I was on the phone with one of the main mango operators, and he told me that he had never had such a high demand. So he exports mangoes to Western and Eastern Europe. And like the other operators I exchanged with, he has adapted his operation to comply with national containment measures. Of course, this incurred some delays in its operation and extra costs, for example, for workers' transportation. But the impact on its activity was quite limited. So in the case of mango, other fresh fruits and vegetables, export logistics has been quite well maintained, and at least for export by sea, which represents the great majority of fresh fruits and vegetable exports in Senegal. But on the local market, it's quite another story. Demand has been highly impacted by social distancing measures, mostly at the beginning. And I would say that the timing could not have been worse, because COVID-19 took place during the Ramadan period, where consumption is usually very high due to religious and social gatherings. So therefore, a lot of investments made to meet the usual peak of demand during that period have been lost. Also, demand decreased significantly from hotels and restaurants that were not allowed to host clients in their premises, and also from local proximity markets where opening hours were significantly reduced. So due to the low demand on local markets, many could not sell their production or were forced to sell it at a loss. So this is what I've seen, at least in the poultry, onion, and potatoes sector. A consequence of this is that many workers in the food supply chain, mostly informal, and lots of women are part of it, had a significant decrease of income. And this has also contributed to lower further the consumption of food products in the country. So these were really two difficult months. But now that the containment measures are being lifted, most activities are resuming, and we really hope that people will gradually be able to recover. Maybe an interesting last point on this is that food home delivery services, on the other hand, have experienced a significant growth during that period. An increasing amount of people in urban areas, I would guess mostly from middle and upper classes, chose to use the services to avoid potential contact with the disease. So it will be interesting to see how this subsector is going to evolve in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pierre, for these insights on the situation at the moment. Then my second question is a little bit more about the agricultural sector in Senegal more generally. As you're now also working on the study to identify opportunities for Dutch companies, I think agriculture is one of the sectors in which most opportunities lie for Dutch companies to do business in Africa in many countries, always in providing quality inputs, offering post-harvest or agro-logistic solutions. But what do you think, also perhaps a bit in comparison to other countries in the region, makes the agriculture in Senegal exceptionally interesting for Dutch companies to look at? Which subsectors perhaps lie the best opportunities for business?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it's totally right. I think that already some Dutch companies have started investing in Senegal. So yeah, in addition to what Mr. C said, you know that Senegal benefits from a great geographical position, and it has a very good climate to grow all kinds of products, especially counter-season produces, mainly for the EU market. Senegal still shows great potential for export to the EU, but also export in the African region and on its growing domestic market. As you said, with the consulting company Time for Sense, we are currently working on a study for FVO and the embassy to identify investment opportunities for Dutch companies in Senegal. And the results of the study will be available in the coming months. But what I can already say is that there are definitely opportunities for Dutch expertise, technologies, and investment in almost all segments of the agriculture value chain. I think that nowadays, for both food safety reason and economic reason, many in Senegal believe that strengthening the country's agricultural autonomy and resilience to climate change and the potential crises such as COVID-19 is very important. And this makes partnership with Dutch companies even more relevant. And I think will create opportunities to invest in areas such as crop production, the local production of quality inputs, or developing efficient agricultural products, logistic systems. So, but on that, we will be able to give you more details in the coming months. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Pierre. From what I understood, you have to go directly into another webinar, so you will log out after. But people can also ask you questions otherwise via email, or if they want to have some more information about what you're working on or agricultural sector, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pierre. Bye-bye. Then we'll go to the next speaker, who is Mrs. Mariola Diawara, who is external relations at Senegal Real Estate. Actually, Mariola, you are currently in the Netherlands, unable to travel to Senegal while your business is there. What is that like? Can your projects continue as normal? Any learnings you can share?
Yeah, sure. So it's been a challenge. I think we were about to plan our next trip to Senegal when COVID-19 reared its ugly head. And when it first started, we thought yeah, it'll be okay. And then obviously we rapidly saw what was happening around the world. And we quite quickly realized that going to Senegal was not an option. And that is partly also because of Senegal's really good response to crises. So we've seen it with Ebola in the past. We've seen it now with COVID-19. The way that they respond and implement the restrictions that are needed is so well organized, and you just have to accept the situation. So what's made it easy for us in the end has been a level of acceptance. Yeah, so this is a situation that nobody could foresee, where the only resolution is to accept, even when your initial response is to go into panic mode. I mean, just to give an example, we were in the middle of a divestment project of our own project, which is a hotel development of 45 rooms, 18 suites and 6 apartments. We found a buyer for that. We were in advanced stages of negotiation, and COVID-19 came and that stopped. So there is nothing you can do, even though you have fellow investors that have invested in that really want to see their investment to be returned to them as soon as possible. There has to be a level of acceptance. There has to be a level of staying in touch with people and communicate. And I think of all the things in terms of, you know, what would you take away as learnings, is to keep up that level of communication, even if you can't be there. I mean, we live in a day and age where we have so many tools available to us. I mean, we're using Zoom now, which has been a lifesaver for our business as well, to keep in touch with our clients, our staff, our other stakeholders, to still hold meetings, still to be able to be personable with people, to engage with them, to see how they're doing, not just on their health. And we've been very fortunate that none of the people in our circle have been directly impacted from a health perspective. But obviously, like my fellow panelists have said as well, we have seen some real devastating impacts to the industry. So one of our clients is in the hospitality industry. So yeah, that's devastating. But I think one of the key takeaways for me has been how everyone is still rallying around to support each other, to keep in touch, to check on each other's well-being, and that's really, I think, a really nice characteristic of the Senegalese population. Everyone is so positive. So even though we're living in a moment that is having quite a lot of impact, people are still looking ahead and saying, okay, this too shall pass.
Thank you very much, Mariola. And also, yeah, actually you have already quite some experience working in Senegal before real estate. I think you also work in the energy sector. What would you advise companies that are new to Senegal and are looking at potentially going there with the business? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, so my husband and I always refer to the 4 A's that we've, and the first one of that, so the 4 A's are absorb, adapt and accept, and then act. So absorb in the sense of really soak yourself into all the information that's available, reach out to, well, I mean, the embassy in Dakar is a prime example. The RVO is a prime example. APIX, yourselves, the events that you organize, Africa Works, trade missions, really get to understand the area where you want to move into, build up a network, because I think one of the most critical things that you need to do is build up a secure network or people with a network that can help you when you want to make that step. Then the second A is adapt. So we always say, go and visit the country. So whether that's via a trade mission, but then after that trade mission, start visiting the country as well. So you get to understand how they do business. So how the Senegalese do business. Learn to understand that in Senegal, it's more about the personal relations and the building trust. So you're looking at it on the long term rather than a short term relationship. Really make sure that you take that time, you do the you do the personable things around asking people about their families, have build up a good relationship. The accept as well is, and I found myself doing that when my first experience with Senegal was in 2013. You have a tendency to compare. And I've lived in the UK for 15 years. Then I came back to the Netherlands and I started comparing the Netherlands with the UK, which is a small step. And then I did the same mistake when I went to Senegal in 2013. And I compared how we used to do things in the Netherlands compared to how you do business in Senegal. And the trick is to really separate the two. Yeah, so really understand about how certain things are done. And then the fourth one we say is act. So start doing business, but start small. So use the information and the organizations available to you to take those small steps into a country, into Senegal, and then scale up from there, which is exactly what we're doing, and be visible. So one of the mistakes that I've seen in the past is that organizations make an agreement, make a deal in Senegal, and then go back to the Netherlands and then stay in the Netherlands and manage that relationship from there. And my advice would really be make yourself visible, go frequently, keep in touch. I mean, right now during COVID-19, but actually all the time, we are nearly in daily contact with our stakeholders, but at least once a week.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mariola. Perhaps also some questions for you at the end. Before going to the Q&A, we have one more speaker actually, Thomas Schneiders, who is the Business Development Manager at Maritalia Group. Thomas, how has your company or perhaps the logistics sector at large been affected by what's happening at the moment with the effects of COVID-19, and what are your prospects for the rest of the year?
Okay, hello everyone, I hope you can all hear me well. So perhaps before I start, just 1 or 2 minutes about what Maritalia is. So contrary to the name, we're not an Italian company, but we're actually a 100% Senegalese company, Senegalese owned, focusing in the logistics and maritime services sectors. And we also own a portfolio of companies which are active in real estate, energy, and other, let's say, maritime transport services. So for us, specifically for the, let's say, logistics arm of our business, we have been impacted quite heavily by the pandemic. We recently had a look at our, let's say, our numbers for the last few months, and we've seen that we've taken a hit of about 25 to 30% on our turnover. Yeah, obviously, I mean, with the pandemic, a lot of projects, big projects, industrial projects have been put on hold. There's been a lot of uncertainty on how the country will do. So as a logistics company focusing on, let's say, custom clearance, transit, transport, and so on, you're often the first to be hit. So let's say that's one of the real impacts we've had. And I think, well, a second one that another thing we've had to deal with quite a lot. Basically, our group, we have about, let's say, 70 people in Maritalia, and with all the companies in the group, we're at about 200. And it is, how do you deal with, hygiene measures? How do you deal with your employees? I mean, we've had to cope. We've had to change a lot within our offices to be able to make sure that we can respect all sorts of social distancing rules. We've had to very clearly explain to our employees, what the impacts are if you don't. You obviously have to manage any potential cases and what those cases could do to your business. So that was quite a let's say a challenge in the beginning, but now we feel that we've reached, let's say, the right measures. So yeah, we've dealt with these quite well. So I think, yeah, that's what I could say for us and our business.
Yeah, thank you very much, Thomas. I have one more question for you, and after that we will go to the Q&A. And I also invite all the participants in this session to please write your question in the Q&A box below already. Then I can pick some after Thomas for the discussion. Yeah, so Thomas, my second question to you, it's a little bit similar to some of the other questions I've already asked some of the other speakers, and really meant to inspire also the participants to start doing business in Senegal, because from what I understand, you also really moved to the country from a passion, first working for another company and going to Senegal a lot before making the decision to moving there permanently for new opportunity. So could you give an example perhaps of a successful business story you recently witnessed, or something else that could perhaps inspire others to start doing business in Senegal?
Yeah, so well, as you said before, I was working for Diamond Shipyards for about 4 years, and I met this family that I'm working with now, who convinced me, not only them but the country convinced me to move over to Dakar and to try out my luck. I mean, I think a lot has been said in terms of opportunities, but I think, yeah, you know, when you arrive in a country which is experiencing growth of, let's say, 6%, unfortunately, for the coming time, it might even be a recession. I mean, there are so many opportunities you can grab. I mean, whether it is in the agricultural sector, in the energy sector, maritime sector, I mean, there are so many possibilities. I think personally, I'm a big, let's say, fan of the idea of local agriculture. I mean, I think, you know, the Senegalese population is growing at very fast pace. And it's very important that they're able to secure their own, let's say, food production. For the rest, I mean, there are quite a lot of projects now in the oil and gas industry where we are also working on and bidding on. However, obviously, COVID has impacted these as well. There's 2 big projects here, one from BP and one from Woodside, which is an Australian company, and while BP has put theirs on hold, on pause for at least the coming year. Woodside, the Australians are still continuing their projects, but obviously we don't know what the long-term repercussions will be of COVID on the oil and gas industry. I think for us, I mean, maybe specifically speaking for Maritalia, you know, from every you know, challenge you can create an opportunity. We've had the luck of winning a contract with the United Nations in January with all the different 34 agencies. And obviously this humanitarian crisis has let's say, allowed us to work very closely with the World Health Organization. And the fact that flights are closed within different countries has meant that we've been able to transport a lot of medical equipment to the region, Mauritania, Guinea, Gambia, Mali, and so on. So that's also been an opportunity for us and helped stabilize our figures.
So thank you all again, and have a great afternoon. Great timing. It's 12 o'clock. So thank you very much.